Hey everybody, Adam And here. I wanted to give you an introduction to the new Crown Sterling reward system. So briefly, Crown Sterling is an alternate currency that we'll be using in game, and historically it was a currency used in Britain, hundreds of years ago. And so I think it fits nicely. For developers, you could actually name it anything you like, but we'll be using Crown Sterling. So the idea here is that we introduce a new currency system to simplify the distribution of rewards to players at the end of a quest or event. And if you've been an administrator for any amount of time, it sometimes becomes onerous to remember or document what rewards were given at what event. Did I give the bone chair at the Halloween event, or is it still pretty rare? There's obviously tools you can write to figure this out, but that too is non-trivial. Not the tool itself, but to graph the rares distributed over time or over the years, or in my case over the decades, to understand what GM is giving what reward at what time. Okay, so we have this Crown Sterling system. There are really three components to it. There is the currency itself, which is Crown Sterling or simply sterling. The NPC that processes transactions in sterling, and then the Crown Sterling system itself. Now, I'll try to split this video into really two parts. The first part will really be geared toward game masters so they can get up and running and using the system right away. And in the second part, I'll talk a little bit about the details of implementation. But so we have the two obvious components: the sterling coinage and then the NPC. Okay, so before we talk too much, let's just see what it looks like. So we've created a vendor here. We're calling it a royal vendor because Candida deals in Crown Sterling. The role play here is that Crown Sterling is the official currency of the realm, and gold and silver are relegated to the town folk, the common people, as a barter system. Okay, so let's take a look and see what and this vendor here is made to emulate what a vendor in UO typically acts like, looks like, understands, but it is not base vendor. It is not the class of this NPC is not based on the standard base vendor, but is instead based on the Crown Sterling system. Okay, so let's just give it a shot here. So I'm just going to say vendor buy like you would at any vendor. And you'll notice immediately that the gump looks a little bit different than the gump of standard vendors, primarily because the gump of standard vendors is done client side, and we're running a server here, right? So we handle this all server side. So that's a server side generated gump, and all of the transaction will be handled server side by the crown sterling system. Okay, so let's just walk through what we're seeing here. So the vendor is telling us we have 0 available crown sterling, and then we have these items available for purchase. They're all in red because I don't have enough sterling to buy them, and they're grayed out because, again, I don't have enough sterling. So let's do the obvious thing. Let's add some sterling here. All right, so we got a bunch of sterling here. We're gonna go ahead and use that. Okay, so let's see what it looks like once I have sufficient sterling. Okay, good. So now I have 20,000 sterling and I can buy any of the items. So that's all happening via the crown sterling system, right? The system is managing these gumps. It's managing what I can buy and cannot buy. And if I was to buy something, it would consume the appropriate amount of sterling from my backpack, etc. All the things that the base vendor system would do, but it does it all server side. Okay, so I've finished an event. I wasn't paid with a concrete rare, but rather I was paid in crown sterling, and maybe for that quest or event I got 6,842 crown sterling. So I'm going to go ahead and buy these boards. That's what I want. Yes, I want these. Okay, so as you'll see, I was able to purchase these boards. They're a nice deco item, and there we have it. Okay, so now let's switch over to the game master's perspective. All right, so the game master, I tell him this system is online, and he takes a look at this list and he says, well, a bag is not interesting, a clock is not interesting, and a spell book is not interesting. So he's going to want to delete and add things to this list. So we're going to do that now. But before we do that, let's take a brief look at the properties of this vendor here. So each of the crown sterling vendors has this field called a reward set, and this is the test set currently, and there's an empty set. The empty set is basically a rewards list of nothing. That is, the game master is going to add everything that's available. Then there will be other sets. This one is test, some random things. Then we'll have others which are like ghoulish, which will be headstones and body parts and blood splatters, things of that nature. Then another reward set which is furniture, bone chairs and tables, things of that nature. So we'll have a number of sets. So the game master can either select the empty set and add everything explicitly, or select a set and a different set and then add or remove things that they want. Okay, so we're going to go with this test set, which is what you see here: a bag, some boards, a clock, and a spell book. So again, the game master looks at this list and he says, well, I don't want a bag or a clock or a spell book, so I want to get rid of those. So the way you do that is pretty straightforward. The game master can issue the command vendor remove item. Okay, so when you remove the item, you're going to specify a couple of properties. One is the item ID of the thing you want to remove from this list. Another one is the base price, and I'll come back to that. And another one is the hue. So it's a pattern matching thing. It's going to try to pattern match what's in that list with what you want to remove. All right. Vendor remove item. It prompts you, so we're going to give it an item ID of E76, a base price of 5,000, a hue of 0, and we're not going to specify a label. We're just going to use the standard label generation mechanism. Okay, so it tells us that it removed a bag with this ID, this base price, and this hue. All right, so while we're here, let's also get rid of that clock and that spell book. So it's the same model. We're going to say remove item, and now we're going to specify the clock item ID, the base price of 5,000, and a hue of 0. And now the clock has been removed. All right, and finally, let's remove that spell book. Okay, so now the bag, the clock, and the spell book have been removed. Okay, let's see what our list looks like now. There we go. Two things. We have the stack of boards in two different facings. So let's talk about base price briefly. For developers, the base price is obviously modifiable for your needs. But for our needs, the base price of all the rewards are 5,000 sterling. Then on top of that, the system adds to that 0 to 4,999 additional sterling. And the additional sterling is based upon the intrinsic name of the thing. So in this case, boards. So it's a hash. So you hash the name boards, and that gives us a specific value in that range of 0 to 4,499. What that does is it ensures that boards, whether they're east facing or south facing, always have the same price. And it also ensures that different items for sale will have a base price of 5,000 and then some random price above that, right? So you're not really, so you have interesting looking prices, but you don't have to price everything individually. You just set the base price and it does the rest. Okay, so now we have a list of two things in our on our vendor. We want to make it a little bit more interesting. So let's say we had a quest and we wanted to add a clock, a special clock with a hue, a red hue, and a special name. So it's similar to removing an item. We're going to say add item. And when we add an item, we had an item ID of the clock, a base price of 5,000, a red hue, and we gave it a label this time of old timer. Okay, so let's just take a look and see what that looks like. There we go. We now have a red customized clock with a customized label and an automatically generated price of 5,247, and it's good to go. We can buy it. Okay, let's add one more thing here. We're going to add a stack of arrows, which is a nice graphic, and it seems to fit nicely in this list. So it's again something that the game masters are able to do dynamically in game. So we're going to say add item. We got the stack of arrows graphic, base price of 5,000, hue of 0, and we didn't give it a special name. We just let the system generate it. All right, let's see what our list looks like now. And there we go. So our arrows are 9,101 sterling. Let's buy that. I like those. Those are good. So we buy them. Yes. And so there's our arrows. So it's that easy. So you can either start with an empty list and add everything explicitly, or you can start with a pre-populated list and add and remove things as you like. Okay, I'll take one second here to talk about an implementation detail. This is more interesting to developers than for game masters, and then I'll come back with one more feature for game masters. So the Crown Sterling system has these canned sets of rewards. This one's called test. There's an empty set. We're going to have a ghoulish one, which is headstones and body parts and blood splatters, and then we'll have another one that's furniture or whatnot. So we'll have all these sets. But the thing to note here is that these sets are shared across all vendors, right? So when a game master changes the set for this NPC, Candida, we don't want that reflected everywhere, right? So we don't really add to the shared set, and we don't remove from the shared set. When you remove an item from the this list, say we remove that bag, it doesn't remove it for all the NPCs. It's localized to this NPC, so it's really a filter. Think of it as a filter. This NPC filters for a bag from that set. Similarly, when you add, in this case we added the stack of arrows, it doesn't modify the set, in this case test, for all the NPCs. But this NPC will add this item, this rare, to the list of items available for purchase. Okay, so what this is really saying is that when you make these modifications, add or remove items, it's really localized to that NPC, since the sets are shared across all NPCs. So each NPC can be totally custom. You can have an NPC, maybe he's like a necromancer, and he's pulling from the ghoulish set of rewards, and this specific NPC can modify the ghoulish set and add things that the standard ghoulish set does not have. Okay, I hope that all makes sense. So yeah. Okay, so let's do one more interesting thing. You'll notice that all I've dealt with so far are item IDs, right? So the items here are created and they're lifeless. They're just like deco items or something of that nature. What you're gonna want to do as well is make real items available, right? So remember our bag. That bag that we had in this list was a graphic ID. It wasn't really a container object. You couldn't put things in there. Much like the arrow stack we show here, it's just a graphic. It doesn't have any function. You can't pull arrows off of it, right? So sometimes you're going to want to add actual real items, which are objects, which have, that are scripted, which have amounts and they have functionality. Okay, so let's try that. Let's add a functional item to this list. Okay, so a fireworks wand, I think, works well. So let's just try that. So I'm going to add a fireworks wand here. Okay, so now we have a real fireworks wand. This is an object that actually functions. I can double click it and it shoots off a firework. Okay, so I want to add this to the list. Could be any item, right? Could be a deed to a house, could be a deed to an add-on, doesn't matter. What we're distinguishing here is the difference between creating an item for just an item ID that has no life, that has no functionality, and an item that has been created in game that has all the functionality that that item usually has. Okay, so we're going to do that by saying atom add target. So vendor add target is going to take the targeted item, make a copy of it, stash it away, and then make it available for players to purchase. Okay, let's try that. Okay, it wants a target cursor. All right. All right, now it wants a base price, a hue, and a label. So I'm going to give it the base price, our standard base price of 5,000. You'll notice it didn't ask for an item ID because it knows what the item ID is. And a hue of 0. Yeah, let's make it 33. That's interesting. And we're not going to change the label because a fireworks wand is perfectly fine. Okay, so we added fireworks wand, all right, and it's now in the system. So if we now load this GUMP, you'll now see that we have a fireworks wand available to us. So what we've shown here is that you can add things both by item ID, which just creates a lifeless deco object, or you can add items which are then made available to the player with the full functionality of that item. So let's just take a look and make sure that that works. So I'm going to drop this fireworks wand that I have in my hand. I'm going to buy this one. Well, I'm actually not going to buy it until I get more silver. Sterling. Okay, so now I have enough gold to buy it again. Okay, I can buy the fireworks wand, and it's got you can see the hue there is 33. That's the little gem in the middle. I'm going to buy it. I don't have a fireworks wand. Nothing up my sleeve. Yes. Okay, and there's my neatly hued fireworks wand. If I double click it, I get my fireworks. So that's really it. So what we saw here is that the crown sterling system supplies a number of databases of items. They're usually themed. You might have a generic one, a ghoulish one, a furniture one, a weapons one, armor, whatever. And then you can add to or subtract from that database as a game master those items that you find appropriate for the event. And then you can also add items which are a fair bit more interesting: clothing blessed steeds, magic katanas, whatever it is. So very flexible, dynamic. I mean, even with the base vendors that you'll find in town, all the NPCs in town, those require code if you want to change the inventory, right? The inventories are static. This system was designed to be dynamic and supply reasonable defaults, and then allow the game master to come back around and change it up for a particular NPC and make it really interesting. Okay, so that's it. This will be coming online. Well, this will be going to our test center probably tomorrow. We've got another scenario coming online in probably about a week, all new. And we're going to be putting crown sterling to use in this to both simplify the distribution of rares to players and enhance the player experience by allowing them to pick the rare that they want. Okay? See you next video. Bye.